Hi.
Hi, good. You, old man, I saw you in the middle of the street. Here.
Yeah, that's our project for the next couple of days.
This was tough. I read it twice.
Did you?
Because I 06, I thought I better read it again.
You're a better man than I.
Yeah, I know, well,
It was, I told you it was gonna be tough,
yes,
but it's good.
pretty pertinent this last 2 months.
I would agree with you.
Except it is a little redundant.
It is, it's, but I think it has to be because it's so difficult.
Yeah. Well, good, thanks.
I appreciate it when somebody. I have a friend that's like, do a year. Not my favorite. Like 2 years.
Should I get copies for everybody? I don't know.
You need some
I
additional
don't
copies
need-
printed off today?
Yeah, like everybody. City alone.
How'd it go? Yeah. No, I just got home half hour ago. There's food in their dish out there.
It was on last month's report.
Yeah.
I
Don't say way ahead of me. No.
And,
The guy from the county.
yes,
Him and his friend Dan.
no, he is.
Oh, no, him. Oh, it's and the fat guy.
Oh, you're talking, I know who you're talking about.
He really smart guy.
Yeah, really, I mean, you are talking about somebody that really no.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But he's talking about it.
He is. It's a different way of bringing it from. Thank you, Dad.
We're not allowed to talk. They catch us.
Yeah. I know.
Oh. Here's. Good evening, welcome to the 7 p.m. City of Mayville regular meeting Monday, April 10th. Please take the roll.
Alderperson Bob Smith,
Here.
Alderperson Joseph Reese,
Here.
Alderperson Kim Olson. Here. Alderperson Jack Abbott.
Here.
Alderperson Roger Smith. I think we've got him via Zoom. Oh, let's lost his connection. It's not there anymore. I'll watch from the.
Yeah.
All right, we do the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Are there any citizen comments that are to be kept at a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker? Unless the chairperson allows extension of time, each citizen is to make comments at the podium after stating name and address. Each citizen may comment only one time per public hearing or meeting.
Sarah Decker, 230 Highland Trail. I'm not good at this stuff, as many of you may know, so let's see if I can do this. Okay, I'm extremely disappointed in the article and quotes on the front page of the Dodge County Pioneer this week. I was born and raised in Mayville. My family and I live and work here. My kids go to school here. We spend countless hours volunteering for local organizations and attending city events. The misdirected comments that were implied in the newspaper article stand to tarnish mine and my family's reputation that we've worked hard to establish over the years. I served as the city clerk for 6.5 years. During this time, I worked diligently in the city's best interest. I completed all the schooling and training to become a certified municipal clerk. In the 6.5 years I was clerk, there were 4 treasurers, 4 deputy clerks, now 5, 2 DPW directors, 2 parks directors, 3 take center and rec directors, 4 police chiefs, 3 utility accountants, 2 utility directors, 2 librarians, 2 mayors/administrators, and now a new clerk. That is almost 30 key positions, not including non-management full-time positions and part-time positions that changed in less than 7 years. It would be completely naive to anticipate there would be no errors with this amount of turnover, but to imply they were intentionally committed by loyal employees without evidence of wrongdoing is just not fair. It is disheartening rather than using city resources and funds to correct the inadvertent mistakes and identify how to positively move forward in the best interest of the city. It appears those resources are being used to point fingers in the past. I believe the fact that the unplanned resignation of the clerk and treasurer on the same day and an other person shortly after raises some red flags at the atmosphere at City Hall. Creating this type of hostile environment is undoubtedly going to make recruiting new employees, committee members, and other persons more difficult. For anyone that knows me, you know I am Mayville through and through, and I hate to see that political drama is tearing apart the city that so many of us love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other citizen comments? Name and address, please.
Joe Holman, 271 South Main Street. This is kind of interesting that position you guys find yourself in. It's not me, it's not the taxpayers or anything like that. You put us in here, right here in this mess. What I find appalling is number one, taking responsibility. You, Mr. Mayor, are responsible for everything that happens or fails to happen. It is not the city clerk, city administrator, city treasurer. It's based upon you. And when you see news articles, when you see people pissed off, when you see money that could be unaccounted for, or anything like that, or we gotta do a forensic audit to find it, come on. This is ridiculous. At some point, each and every one of you need to start taking a look at these finances a little better. This is not that hard. You can't mingle everything into one fund and expect everything just to go wherever. This has got to be accounted for. It's got to be accounted for now. I cannot believe for the life of me that you, Mr. Mayor, got elected, don't know what the heck you're doing, which is garbage. You hear stuff from other people out there that are working within the city, and they point fingers at you. Well, you should get the fingers pointed at you. And I'm disappointed in you and your leadership. And not only that, the city council, come on. At least spend some time trying to find this stuff. Spend some time down here in the city. Because you, sir, just to let you know how you do great leadership. You surround yourself with great people and you keep them. Either with pay raises with what's going on in the economy or whatever you got to do to keep these people here. And you make sure they're the good people that we need in Mayville. Whatever you got to do, you need to start doing. And like now, the next and the very last thing is when I take a look at managing, there's a difference between leadership and managing. The managing seems like it has been defunct. There's a major problem. You know it, and I know it, and so do every single one of these taxpayers. The police department knows it. The ambulance service knows it. The fire department knows it. And every single one of the people that work in this city darn hard, and you allow this to happen within a small, short time, and it's you, sir, that allowed this to happen. And I'm disappointed in you and the entire city council at this point. I should never, ever, ever have to come up here pissed off, but I'm actually pissed off for once. And I never get mad, but I'm actually mad about this. And I think every single person out here should be mad, and every single person in the city should be mad at this. It's ridiculous. Fix this and fix it soon.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Are there any other citizen comments?
Rob Dog, 235 North Clark Street, man. Like Mr. Holman, I did see the article in the paper this last week. And obviously you guys must have did an investigation, because that's how this works. You do an investigation, you get the facts, and then you go public. So I would like to see the report that you guys did, that it must be concluded. If it's not concluded, then you're just stirring stuff up in the paper, and people are paying attention. People that want to make an investment in our community, like businesses coming to town, they see this stuff. So what are we doing? So either we're stirring up drama, or you got an investigation done and concluded. So Mr. Mayor, go ahead and put it out to the public. Let's see the investigation report. On other matters, Rock and Boom and the Audubon days, I mean, I see you guys want to get rid of it out of the city's hands and put it in the hands of the committee. I mean, I've been around long enough. Before Rock and Boom, it was the 4th of July committee. And then it turned into the Rock and Boom committee, but it's not just one organization. There's many organizations make up this committee that have a part in this, and the same as the Audubon. My fear with the Audubon would be is that Audubon committees, if, you know, we did receive $10,000 from the chamber at the time to continue the Audubon days. And that first year, they increased it to almost 16,000, and now I see it's up to 28,000. But if you're gonna do that, that's fine, but I would keep some of the money back just in case something happens with the Audubon committee and it doesn't succeed, because eventually, if it doesn't succeed, it's just gonna fail if you give them all the money. So you might as well hold some money back in case you need it down the road. And then lastly, you know, I've offered my help to the clerk in the past. I'm offering my help now to the rest of the council as well. You know, I have a lot of leadership qualities and a lot of experience doing this over 10 years with the county. So I'm offering my assistance that if you need help, I'm only a phone call away to look it up and see what we can do to help resolve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? We could go back further. But for 3 years in a row, City of Mayville was rated material weakness. Several material weaknesses cited in our financial records.
I think we missed one.
Thank you. Oh, let me back up. I was just getting started. Thank you for bringing me back to order. Consent agenda. Would anybody like to move to approve the minutes on the March 13th, 2023 Common Council meeting? No motion? All right, we'll move forward. So back to material weakness. Let me tell you what that means. The citizens and taxpayers of Mayville, of which I'm one. I paid $7,800 last year in property taxes. I've earned my place, and I've earned a place to be disgusted with the way this city has operated in the past to result in material weaknesses with our financial statements. And what's on the line for Mayville? We decided that we want to have borrowing cycles. We want to borrow money. And we can't borrow money unless we have certified, audited financial statements, period. End of story. 3 years in a row, material weakness. Let me define what a material weakness means. A material weakness is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting, such that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the city's annual or interim financial statements will not be prevented or detected on a timely basis. We're in April now. Last year at this time, we received our audit. We're probably 2 months out maybe 3, before Baker Tilly's gonna be able to deliver to us certified financial audit for the city of Mayville. I mentioned 3 years in a row. If you'd like me to go back further, I will. I've been the mayor for 1 year. I became mayor in April, and I didn't create the mess, but I'm 100% committed to fixing it to the best of my ability. So I do want to point out that 2 things. Number 1, my career has been wonderful. 32 years in risk management and compliance. It's everything I do. As the CEO of this city, if you come to me with a report of somebody stealing money, you've got an HR issue, you've got an issue with your audit, I can't ignore it. Nobody is being singled out. I can't ignore it. But I will address it. I agree with a lot of the things that were said. It's disgusting, the lack of internal controls that exist inside Mayville city government when we've got an annual budget of $9.5 million. So a little rounding error in Mayville's $9.5 million can compound to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Should I ignore it? The toothpaste is out of the tube. These meetings are broadcast via the OWL. And if you'll read the news report closely, you'll see verbatim what was in the news article. Now I'm going to ask for some cooperation from the council. Joe, you're big on state statutes of all kinds, and I want to point you to statute 62.11, paragraph 5, which is the common council power. The treasury is your responsibility. 6209, A and B point out my responsibilities. I'm the chief executive officer, and I am to bring things to your attention that are to the advantage of the city of Mayville. And I'm telling you, it's unacceptable to have material weakness in our annual audits. It is unacceptable to kick the can down the road. You put our people in peril, you put our taxpayers in peril. And for what? Save yourself the embarrassment. Save yourself the embarrassment. It's time to get together and work on this. And I will invite members of the council to come into the city hall. There's 2 things that have come up of late. I'd like assistance just so you can understand how much work it takes administratively to do the things we need to do to operate this city. Joe Reese, I would invite you to come in. You pick the time. We'll be here. You can spend an hour with the city. We'll go through our revolving loan fund files. And the question I will ask of you is, are the debtors repaying the city? I don't know. We have no tracking mechanisms. 0. $40,000 loans. We're just handing it out like candy after COVID. That's my fault? We have 6 kids in the history of Mayville. Some of them went really poorly. Some of them turned sideways. Some of them are sideways, but we have the opportunity to earn the funds back, so long as we effectively manage the process. So TID 5, I got 2 properties in TID 5 that require some research to figure out where we're at, so that we can make sure we're not missing out on either building or collecting to make these kids whole. Could I get a volunteer, one of you, to come in, spend an hour, don't violate open meeting laws, come in and spend an hour and do the research? Who's in? And you want to talk about quality personnel? My God. Guys, we were flying blind for 18 months. We're on on the cusp of greatness. And you want to play political games? I don't give a crap about political games. I'm here to serve the community. That's it. So be pissed and get to work. And I will see the rest of my time. We'll get into the details of the audit in the treasurer's report. And I thank you all for being here. It's nice. It's great to see the community get involved because it's that serious. So thank you. Next item is resolution 5837-2023. Appointment to the Park, Rec, and Tag Center Commission.
You want me to read it?
Please do.
Whereas the terms of Roy Smalley, Brian Tom, and Alex Jones expired on the Park Rec Take Center Commission on October 1st, 2022. And whereas in accordance with Municipal Code 20-10A, the mayor shall appoint subject to confirmation of the Common Council. And therefore, the mayor hereby appoints Nick Steffel to serve on the Park Rec Take Center Commission for a 2-year term expiring October 1st, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Mayville does hereby approve the above mentioned mayoral appointments to the Park Rec Take Center Commission.
I'll make a motion to approve Nick Steffel.
Motion by Bob Smith,
I'll second.
second by Joe Reese. Thank you both. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Roger, are you able to unmute? I couldn't get your vote.
This is Roger. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Should I sign the resolution?
Mhm.
So as a new control mechanism, one thing we are doing for the city is signing resolutions live in real time in blue ink so that they can't be falsified. Safe Parks report.
My report is really mostly just on the election. We had a total of 1,451 voters in the spring general election. Of those, 330 of them were absentee voters. We see that number going up every election. And we had 27 new election day registrants. The day was very busy. We had a constant stream of voters. The poll workers within the city of Mayville are top notch. And it's thanks to them that our elections run so smoothly, and our prior clerk did an excellent job in getting them set up as well. We're always looking to add new names to our poll workers list. So if anyone's interested, please reach out to me. I will be looking into training opportunities for current and new workers in the new future, so we can try to add to those numbers. We can always use, more to choose from, because especially the spring ones, we get a lot of people on vacation. So it's nice to have some extra numbers there. And the new council members will be sworn in Tuesday, April 18th, 2023 at the organizational meeting. The only other thing I wanted to touch on is that liquor license and operator licenses are coming due. All liquor and operator licenses will expire on June 30th. The renewal forms will be sent out to those businesses and operators with licenses within the next week or so. Business liquor license will be reviewed at the May 22nd, 2023 public safety meeting for consideration and or approval. And then at the June 12th, 2023 common council meeting. The operators licenses will be approved at the May and June council meetings. And for all those who are renewing licenses, they will need to get their forms and be into City Hall as soon as they are able. That's all I have to report on.
Thank you, Ann.
Yeah.
All right.
Received complaints that people came in to do their absenteeism voting or whatever, and nobody was here to do it. What happened?
The very first day of absentee voting, my children had a very contagious.
I recall that, but there were other times they said.
The only other time was when I was at mandated training at the county for the election.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next item, number 2, discuss and approve operator's license for Kaylee M. Chapel, Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. Chief, we're good? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve Haley's.
Motion by Bob Smith. Oh, second motion. By Jack Abbott. Thank you, Jack. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Roger?
All right. Oh,
Aye. Sorry. Trying to turn off my mute.
You can stay unmuted.
All right.
motion carried. Thank you. Next item C, Comptroller Treasurer, the Comptroller Treasurer's report. There we go.
The treasurer's report this month consists of checks and payroll for approval. We've been experiencing more issues with the accounting software and server again this month, and I'll explain that later in the presentation. So I wanted to take a moment and acknowledge the article that appeared in the local paper this week. As most everyone is aware, we are working for our annual audit and the special audit. While this may sound alarming, most often truly it comes down to just cleaning up after excessive staffing changes and shortages. This is not a witch hunt. Nobody is pointing fingers, and it's simply a matter of recognizing that there were shortcomings and finding the appropriate resources to rectify the issue. We were not aware of the article. Nobody was quoted in the article, and it's what John was saying is all the quotes is what was taken from meetings. We put together a brief summary to try to show the areas that we were working on with the audit and explain what we were running into. Many of these issues have been ongoing even prior to the Comptroller Treasurer before me. They're not new issues, and they're not issues that council was unaware of. Between changes in council members and staffing, issues often go unaddressed. Issues have been mentioned in prior year audits and management letters. When Mayor Gwen first reached out to me, it was reiterated during my interview with council that they acknowledged that there were issues and we needed to clean them up. So the council did vote unanimously on March 13th to approve working with Sickage to assist in the special audit. While I recognize the stress the situation can have on all of us, I'd like everyone to understand that it's a very slow process. But we're only a couple weeks in. The ideal outcome of this process is to provide the council and residents of Mayville the assurance that an independent firm has reviewed the questions that have come up, and that if there are issues found, that they were dealt with in any legal and sound manner. Once we work through the questions and are able to reconcile the accounting program to an immaterial level that is acceptable to our auditors, we'll finally be able to move forward. Once again, this is a slow process, and it's hindered even further with the software and server issues we've been having. We're moving our program to the new server this week on Wednesday, and then we'll have a lot of catching up to do. Over the next month, we'll be implementing the software upgrade, and then we will hopefully be able to assess if these computer issues have played a role in the inaccuracies that we're looking for. So, this is, hopefully I can do this. I've done a presentation in a few years. So some of the things we're dealing with, actually, I think we can go back a slide here. In our general ledger, there's issues with reconciling and not happening appropriate months. Just getting behind and some issues with the software. We had issues trying to track down some loan payments that were posted incorrectly. And this is all in prior years. You know, there were money transfers not recorded in the month in which they were made. expenses that were not recorded in the proper month and or year, tax entry not recorded or reconciled for multiple years. That's normally would be a function of the treasurer, that we are not doing until audit. Sales of city property paperwork that cannot be verified currently, and incomplete missing files of physical documentation. And then in payroll, some of the issues we've been working through were multiple employees whose withholdings were incorrect and had consequence issues this year. Benefits being paid on terminated employees, mostly I've been able to recover those. Multiple employees with incorrect benefit withholdings. The benefit accounts are not being reconciled for quite some time. Incorrect benefit percentage calculations and incorrect social security numbers on W-2. And accounts payable, we're working through vendors. We have vendors with multiple addresses that have been kind of an audit issue. Incorrect or missing or overpaid invoicing, missing W-9, incorrect or invoices coded with incorrect accounts. And accounts receivable, we're working with invoices that have not gone out for several months, payments not reconciled to the proper invoices, manual records not updated in spreadsheets, and payments that are not being posted to the correct account line items. So one of the things I just kind of wanted to explain, because some of the questions I've been getting when I've been talking about some of the software and the feedback I'm getting kind of makes me believe some of the people don't really understand what it is, where you do. So on the slide, I just wanted to explain. In the software, we call them different modules. So this is going to probably bore most of you, but for the ones that need to hear it, and we're going to go through it. So the different city employees work in the different modules. The utilities, we have the utility clerk. You know, they do the meter reads and all the move-in, move-outs and that type of information. Cash receiving, the people up front take most of the payments, and that person's working in that module. Accounts payable, both utility and the city will enter invoices, and then they get paid weekly. Time clock system, payroll, that all goes in. Accounts receivable. So the point of this slide is to explain that we have various people working in the different sub-modules of the program. So far, we are not seeing issues in the sub-module. Where we're seem to be having the issue is as those modules we update, flow into the general ledger. And then from the general ledger, then that's where I would typically come in, do the reconciliations, the bank statements, and get out the monthly reports. So to give you an idea, working with the software company and IT, where we seem to be having an issue is the volume of information that is trying to go from these sub-modules and being uploaded into our general ledger. The server is timing out. We don't know how long it's been doing this. I started noticing some issues right away in working with it. And the program's been timing out more and more each month. But this is also just to give you an idea of the amount of information that goes through this program. So when we're talking about, we have questions or we're looking for something and it's happening and it could have been anything over the last 3 or 4 years, you understand we're looking into thousands of transactions. This is huge time. It's not that anybody's trying to be mean. It's not that anybody's pointing any fingers. It's just when you say something is off and it could be over a few years, this is all that we have to look back through. So when I can give some reports, like I said, the sub-module reports here to still be accurate. The disconnect is then when it's all coming together in the general ledger. And that's where we're seeing duplications and inconsistencies, and we're seeing it at the software level. So as we've been saying the last month or so since I've started, and I'll probably keep saying, is a lot of the issues that I'm seeing are because we're so short staffed. We're working on outdated equipment that's being addressed, but there's still staffing needs. And probably the hardest part with this today and listening to everybody being so upset is everybody here, we agree with everything they're saying. And quite honestly, we're being put in the same position they're in. So if we don't work to change anything, nothing will change. You know, and you can update the software, but that's not the only issue. We have to have time and the staffing to do things correctly. So in the next step, the next slide, what I want to reiterate here is every time people cut staff, they think they're saving. And I get where Mabel was coming from, but at the same time, what happens then is everybody's overworked and we go out to the professional services more and more and more. So in the end, as you're still spending more because then we have to rely on these special auditors. The cost of your audits go up, legal fees go up, engineering goes up. So farming all that out in the end, just adds to a lot of questions, and it really is not the cost savings you think it is.
Questions?
I have a couple.
Okay. Tim?
This isn't in our packet. I don't see it. Is it?
No, this was just a report I put together this weekend in response to the
Okay.
article.
Could you tell me, first of all, is this audit completed?
We just started.
So how much have we spent on this signature, however you say their name so far?
We've only had a few hours with them. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm,
And has the payroll problem been addressed and fixed yet?
Which one?
Well, I've had issues with W-2s that didn't work out well in my software anyways. It was figured incorrectly. Has that been addressed and fixed yet?
In your W-2, you had an issue?
I do taxes. And my software would kick out some of the W-2s that were issued. And I'm wondering if that has been addressed. I did call you about that. We talked about that. Has that been addressed and fixed with that software?
So the issue we had with the W-2 was an employee social security number had been entered wrong that was hired last year. So when he went to file his taxes, it was rejected.
Okay,
So the
yeah,
process-
another issue is either not enough taxes were taken out or none at all.
Yeah,
And I'm wondering if that has been fixed yet.
that has been fixed.
Good, thank you.
I have a comment. About a month ago, we went into a closed session to discuss the basis of this foolishness in the paper. Two older people voted no to go into closed session because there was no specifics. And there still aren't any specifics. And then this nonsense went into the paper, extremely poor messaging by our leader, after we cautioned him not to do this. As a result, we're here today with a PowerPoint presentation and explanation, which amounts to, in my 45 years of experience being a chief executive of automobile companies, we would classify this as cheap second-rate excuses, and that's what they are. There is no excuse for the poor messaging, the follow-up, and the pointing fingers without knowing what the hell you're talking. And that's why they're here, because you don't know what you're doing. We have problems, and you don't know how to explain them, neither one of you.
Was there a question in there, Bob?
No, that's just a comment. Question is, when are you gonna stop doing this?
So I guess just to reiterate, before I started, you recognized you had issues, did you not?
Right? We were told you were the magician to come and fix them. Sounds like you haven't begun yet because you can't plug in the software. You can't begin to do the work necessary to repair the issues that we were all aware of.
This is Roger. This is Roger here. I'd like to interject something here. I think we all recognize we have a problem. And I think we recognized it before we hired a new comptroller. And it became abundantly apparent after we hired a new comptroller that that problem is indeed real. We've been explained to us that there's a software problem. I think we've been hearing about that pretty steadily for quite some time. So I think it's appropriate to work together to get beyond where we're at right now. Let's provide the appropriate level of support to get the software up and running, provide the appropriate level of support to get the books balanced where they need to be, rather than casting stones back and forth at one another. There's a lot of work to do here, and I think if we work together, we can accomplish that. Now, you can pick on the poor messaging. Maybe it's fair, maybe it's not, but we are who we are, and we need help to get there. Because if we can this whole thing and think we're going to start over with somebody else and think we're going to solve the problem, we're not. We need to work together, please.
On that comment, I would like to add that, yes, we need to work on this problem. So going off on these little side notes to find, witch hunts, I call them, to find something wrong, these little tidbits with somebody on this council, I think is a huge waste of time, a huge waste of money and resources. So work on the problem, not addressing these little fires that don't need to be addressed. So pointing fingers has happened. And
What are you
wasted
talking-
resources.
What are you talking about, Kim? Kim, what specifically are you talking about?
Let's see. It was on the agenda at one time to address city loans, elected officials. I don't know what happened. I kind of wish we would have discussed that. Because at one time, I had a plumber who forgot to plug my sub pump back in, which resulted in me losing my entire rec room. And their insurance wouldn't come up to the plate. But apparently, one of you felt you needed to investigate why I took out a city loan to clean up that mess. I really would like that out in the public, because I don't have that secret. Apparently you guys thought I had a secret. But again, that was wasted time, money, and resources on something so pathetically not worth it.
Okay, Kim, thank you for clarifying that. That's
Who wanted to know about my loan through the city out of you three? Please be honest. You put it on the agenda, Mayor. So here, we had a whole room full. Tell people about my loan and what was wrong with it.
So, let's speak about it.
I want you to speak about it, because I did nothing
I
wrong.
don't know, I'll have to refer to the city thing on this one before we discuss an open session.
If it's not related to what was in the treasurer's report. I don't think it's on this agenda item. It would have to be on another agenda item that's not on here. I don't know who requested things be put on or taken off. All I know is it's not on there right now.
But that's what I call a witch hunt. That is a witch hunt, wasted time and money on something so pathetic. Worry about these other big problems, not little old me. I have enough. I have said enough.
Any other questions? All right, we'll go into the committees, commissions, and boards. Starting with the Water and Wastewater Commission, Alderperson's update on the Water Wastewater Commission meeting. Alderman Bob Smith.
Well, there are two aldermen on the water wastewater committee. You want to handle it there,
Alderman Rogers Smith.
Roger Smith? Or are you just here for grins?
I'm sorry. What's the question for me? My apologies.
Update the water on the water report. I will give the one on the planning commission.
I can read it. Just give me a minute.
If not, I have it. If you want me to do it.
If you would do it, I'd appreciate it. I apologize. I'm caught a little flat-footed here since I am out of town and traveling. So it's my fault that I'm not prepared to read it. But if you'd be kind enough to do that for me, I'd be grateful.
We met at 4 o'clock on March 7th. And Jeffrey Lurch came, a citizen, and asked about reimbursement for sewer line repairs prior to 2023. And the utility explained the situation. He would not be eligible for past retroactively. We discussed a bid received for well number 4, rehabilitation and construction, and Big Dressler of Town and Country presented bids. And we recommended CD Smith be awarded the contract for $3,058,142. We asked how much was covered by a grant, turned out $714,000, but we may be able to get more according to the contractor. We might be able to get as much as $943,000 forgiven. Then we went presentation regarding the wastewater facilities planning by MSA Professional. They did a PowerPoint presentation talking about a very involved new treatment plant that I would characterize as kind of a Cadillac. And the wastewater board decided to send him back to sharpen his pencil and come back to something less than $46 million. Water report, we talked about main breaks on Center Street, Wisconsin, talked about service breaks on Dayton Street. Consumer confidence report and low income housing water assistance program payments on behalf of our customers. Phosphorus test through the DNR was fine, but it's getting worse. We're gonna have to keep an eye on it. Aging lift station pumps are wearing out. We're gonna have to concentrate on something to we talked about Sowell and mechanical to ensure operation. The event they need our spare ones. One of our spare ones doesn't work. Does that? Other than that, in the end, Alderperson Roger Smith made a motion to adjourn, and I seconded it, and that was it. The next meeting is tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Meetings are also broadcast via the city's YouTube channel. Library report, Jennifer, your monthly library report.
Thank you, Bob.
I'm sorry, I skipped. What did I skip? Oh, I'm sorry, Bob and Al. I'm sorry, Jack.
Checks for call to approval, payroll.
Bear with me one moment.
After the treasurer's report.
After the treasurer's report.
I got a little side
I
track.
have somewhere I'm at, because I'm,
Those were the reports
Right, library board is next, but
that was in.
library report. Thank you. Sorry, Jennifer. Please, yes.
Okay, in regards to the new library building, builders are working on the exterior enclosure and the interior framing. Everything is going well, and we are still scheduled to be opening the doors sometime in October. In regard to personnel activities and professional development, the summer reading program has been planned out, and the theme this year will be Catch the Reading Bug. This year, Jenny created the design for our summer t-shirts, and if you participate in the third citywide scavenger hunt, you may get a chance to win one of those t-shirts. We have a new circulation manager cataloger, whose name is Lucas Almas, and he's currently working on a dual online degree, a master's degree in history and library and information science. He brings enthusiasm to the position and is learning the ropes at record pace. In regards to social media, our website, the Storytime page is up and running on our website, and it's updated weekly. Storytime is held almost every week from September to May with short breaks each season. We have a morning session and an evening session each week to accommodate both stay-at-home and working parents and caregivers. Research has proven that reading to children before they enter school is one of the biggest indicators to academic success. The new library progress page is updated monthly with information about the new building. So if you're curious about the build, check our website every month to keep up to date. The programs and events page now have calendars with clickable Facebook events, and the May calendar may still be in preview status. If it is, it will soon be clickable as well. In regards to programming, we have mailed letters all over town and beyond for business participation in summer reading in the citywide scavenger hunt, which will happen right before the summer reading program starts. If you are a Mayville business owner but didn't get a letter, just call me and I will get one out to you straight away. April 23rd through 29th is National Library Week, and we have activities happening all week long. For example, on Wednesday, we have a special presentation called Get Organized, presented by super organizer Maria Garcia, who has been in the business of organizing for over 25 years and whose newsletter has over 1 million subscribers. So organize your schedule to stop in during National Library Week to celebrate with us. And finally, in regards to collection, last month we began our RFID tagging in earnest. This is a huge project and will take a while to complete, up to a year, maybe a little bit more. This project is funded by a grant the Monarch Library System won last year, and that is the library report.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I would ask that we invite people to come in and meet the new librarian. I hear all kinds of great things about it.
Yes, the new library, the new manager of circulation services. He's also a cataloger, and everything I tell him, he picks up right away. I don't have to say it twice. He's a really nice guy. So come on in and meet him.
Thanks, Jennifer. All right, date and time of the next library board meeting will be Thursday, April 13th at 6 p.m. Next item, Community Development Authority. All the persons up there, is there one?
That would be me. So at the last meeting, which was March 8th, we discussed the CDA fund balance. At this time, we weren't sure of the balance. I went back 3 years of my paperwork at home. I do have an idea. I just want to see if it matches with you. The 10 to 16,000 residential loans are set to expire. The only ones that I know that are out right now would be the Marks and Old Fashioned Cheese. We discussed about Park Square opening. And the request is June through Audubon days, which is being sent, I believe it's on our agenda for tonight. So we talked about parking. There was, oh, Don, maybe you can help me with that. When did we do that with the parking? Was it last summer?
Last fall.
Last fall. All right, there's 187 parking spaces that surround Main Street. According to that, there's plenty of parking. People don't want to walk from a parking lot apparently. And that, and Bob, you had noted that maybe some of the business owners could move to off-street parking. We also discussed about the holiday lights. And the city at that time did not know what fund balances are. And at that time will not support Christmas lights. Don was working with the Foundation for Main Street to develop a fund for the public to donate. And how is that going? Or is that still in the midst?
In the midst. Yeah.
Okay. The balance for the lights went from 5,500 to 7,700 after February 28th. And we missed that. And let's see. Hometown Appliance is a new business here in town at 48.5 Main Street. So welcome them, call them if you need them. And also at 111 Oregon Street is Hometown Interiors. I believe they do flooring. So welcome them as well. At that meeting, we had asked about loan applications. To our knowledge, there is none. And we were going to discuss, once we knew more about our financing, if the city would have to determine funds available before granting any funding. And I have talked to 2 businesses in the last week who are interested. That changed from that last time. We had talked about doing murals on Main. Dawn had reported on Main Street generating designs to be painted on Quasi's, Ozzy's building across from the Mayville sculpture. And it was brought up that it should be discussed with Rob Pro for distraction laws, or maybe even Ryan, but I don't see where it would be myself. Then I had brought up about vacant buildings on Main Street that are a rather eyesore. Broken windows, not very nice looking. So I am working on that. I did call Rob Pro and he wanted some more information from me, which I've gathered and will email him. Let's see. And we don't know yet if Beer Becker is going to be with us or not. We haven't decided that either. I did find the paperwork and gave it to Angie. It looked open-ended to me. I don't know if you found out more about it or not. Beer Becker, we had a contract, but we were wondering at that time if it was 1 year or.
It's an open-ended contract.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had for my report.
Thanks, Kim. Next item, discuss with possible action the recommendation to reopen Park Square from June 1st, 2023 through Audubon Days event ending September 17th, 2023.
All right.
I can say, I haven't heard that there were any problems. Good bands, and there was a good turnout for all of them. A lot of people from out of town came. I think it's a good thing.
I'd like to add that during this time span, we have people that go out of town. We have people coming from, you know, vice versa. Some are leaving out of town, some are coming in. So basically it would be a wash, in my opinion. And it did do very well. So I don't have a problem with it for this short duration.
Thank you, Bill.
And your hard work.
Chief, you got any comments on the Park Square thing?
No, last year went great. This year.
Christine, are you on? Do you have any comments on navigating Park Square from an EMS standpoint?
Yeah, I don't, with that being just a short block, I don't think it's a problem for us. That's not a major thoroughfare that we would use on a regular basis. We do always have a little bit of concern with the number of people in that area anyways with the businesses. So we're normally taking Dayton Street or Horicon Street for things in that area.
Has there been any change in the walking between establishments, but open containers or any of that? Chief?
No, we allow them to walk with the food container to the squares. We didn't have any issues with that last year.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like we're ready to hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve
For the dates that are all in.
June 1st through
They don't have the second date on there.
September 7th.
Through Audubon days.
September 17, 2023.
That's what it says here. on the-
Yeah. All right, so we have a motion. You have the wording? All right, we have a motion from Alderman Jack Abbott.
I'll second.
Second from Joe Reese. Any further discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
No opposition? Motion passes. Okay, so, date and time. Next meeting Wednesday, April 26th, 6 p.m. Public Safety Committee. Let's start with Rock and Boom. Discuss and approve temporary Class B retailer's license for Rock and Boom event, July 3rd, 2023.
There's a number of these.
There are, but ones, I'm gonna go event by event, so we'll do the ones in mass that are together.
And I just asked that these are all taken under consideration and looked at. Right? No?
It's something to do every year. Like clockwork.
Would you like to, do you have anything to add or say?
I don't know what it's for. I mean, normally when we discuss in committee first and then we come to the council and approve it.
Has it been sent to committee?
Not for the picnic licenses, I don't believe.
No,
Yeah.
These are,
I haven't seen the picnic license.
these are all main streets, so they're all for the square or for Rock and Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, just in case you don't know that.
We just never had them individual like that before. It was usually just one thing. We approved it and moved on.
Sorry, I broke them apart
Yeah.
because they're different events in
But
case there was
That's
a
okay.
problem.
I understand.
Don, Rock and Boom is up at the park where the rest of them are Main Street.
Correct.
Correct, okay. Got it. So let's,
It's still the main streets part of Rock and Boom, just to clarify that.
okay, so if it pleases the council, we've got committee meetings the evening of April 24th, and my thought is, I mean, as a part of this, we just need to give the police department a chance to just kind of review logistics, discussing committee, and then, we wouldn't cause any delay to then review it on May 8th, next common council meeting.
Is that enough time?
Yeah, I guess the main thing is which nonprofit or who's taking out the Class B retail license for the event, who's taking that out?
Main Street.
Like in the past.
Is that how it's been done? Yeah, I guess that's the only question.
Yeah. Exactly how we did it previously.
Sure, yeah. I guess I don't have any-
I don't understand why we're not voting on this
So
tonight.
yeah,
Kim, do you want to?
I think the
suspend?
first, the number one is separate from the rest of it.
Well, that's true, it's a separate event, but my
And
question
we already
to the
proved
council
that for the
is,
committee, Rock and Boom.
Alderman Smith, the question to the council is, do you wish to go through the normal channels, which is to put it through committee and then refer it on to the common council, or do you just wish to forego our standard processes and just go directly to a vote?
And as I was saying before I was interrupted, item number one was already approved by committee, the rest had not been.
Okay. Rock and Boom has been approved by committee.
I did not put any of these temporary Class B at committee level. If I did something wrong.
No, that's fine, but I'm just saying we're ready for number one.
Okay.
To the normal procedure. The other ones we can decide to treat differently if we think we need to, but I don't think we need to actually.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Smith. So would anybody like to make a motion on item number one, which is Rock and Boom?
I move to approve it.
Motion by Alderwoman Olson,
I'll second it.
second by Alderman Bob Smith. Any further discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Carries. So, items 2, 3, 4, and 5 are for separate events throughout the month of July at the square. Anybody care to make a motion?
I think 7's also in the square.
Yeah, it's the same concert.
Would you like, is the council comfortable with reviewing items 2 through 8 in mass, or would you like to keep them separate?
Let's do it in mass.
Okay,
so,
Yeah.
yes,
2 through 7 in mass.
yeah, I don't understand. You had said before
Yep,
about taking this to the committee. If that would be proper, then why is it here now? And why was it?
well,
They're still learning, but I'd say this is not a big violation of anything.
okay, all right.
You know,
I'm
number one
comfortable.
was separate, that's.
I'm comfortable with that if the council is comfortable with that.
I am, and I'll make a motion to approve number 2 through 7.
Thank you, Alderwoman Olson.
I will second that.
Thank you, Alderperson.
But contingent on any, by the chief.
Yeah, because he still has to do his part.
Right.
The Rock and Boom one was done, these other ones weren't done. I'm sure it's not gonna take him any time to turtle. Just fine, but I would go that in your, amend your motion, throw it in there and make it contingent upon.
Did
But these are all
anything
under the
change?
same premises, correct?
Yeah,
So,
nothing changed. All I'm saying.
I don't know what you're,
Correct, but
they have
it's,
to look at it, they're all under the same.
so is the Rock and Boom one under the same?
No,
Main Street?
no.
That's what I'm saying, so it is different. So,
Right, but we-
So let's humor Jack, or Joe, Jack, and get this over with. I gotta feed my fish at home.
if we make it contingent, things can still go through,
Yeah,
as long as Chief Governor signs off on it, we're. So same effect, just gets it done.
I agree.
You
So,
will amend your motion to add that?
you'll amend your second.
I will amend.
Amendment.
Are you okay with that,
Pass.
Kim, since you made the motion?
You
You
All right.
said, yes.
approve
All right,
number 2 through 7 contingent.
You're second, you're
No,
okay with
you're
the
second, you're just okay with it.
Yes.
all right, so we have a motion, we have an approved amendment to the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries. The date and time of the next Public Safety Committee will be Monday, April 24th, immediately following the Personnel Committee. Public Works Committee, no report. Date and time of the next meeting, Monday, April 24th, 6 p.m. Public Works Personnel, date and time of the next meeting, Monday, April 24th, immediately following Public Works. Finance Committee, date and time of the next meeting, Monday, April 24th, immediately following Public Safety Committee, although we have something out of order here. So item with Finance Committee, discuss with possible action the recommendation to approve Rock and Boom funds to be handed over. No. Oh, okay. This is separate. So would anybody like to summarize the discussions we've had so far? Alderman Reese, you handled it well. Do you want to provide an update discussion with?
Yeah, so, I guess let me just. I did get an email from Mike Shu about this, and I did respond. I guess, the way it seems is the Rotary doesn't want to take this on, for good reason. It's been multiple organizations that have been handling Rock and Boom. My only real thoughts are, so we have the option of keeping everything the same or doing something different. But do we know what the options are if we want to do something different? Is it something that can be combined with Audubon days? Can they put themselves under one umbrella, similar events? That they're both out for the city. I mean, this is purely for the fun of everyone involved. So I don't want to make a mess of things for everybody. I don't want to make it difficult on anybody. I'm just thinking of what's the most expedient way to do this. And part of my thought process is they shouldn't have to come to us for us to go through all the political hoops for them to accept their money, and then we have to vote on it, and, you know, there has to be a whole procession there. Trying in that regard to make it easier, if that makes sense.
My agenda doesn't say who handed over, it said managed by the, and then it's blank, so apparently I got an earlier version. I think it was supposed to say managed by the.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Committee.
And before you get up here, I want to state that I did speak to the last clerk, deputy clerks. They said the Rotary always went through the city, and I think it should remain the same, and then on that note, you can take over.
So Rock and Boom for 50 years has been handled by the city, either through the fire department or through this committee of different groups within the city, the Rotary, the Lions, Main Street Mayville, the Chamber, the Legion, all of them work together to put on Rock and Boom. I can tell you that there's not going to be one organization, unless you guys can find one, but I'm not going to go out and search for one organization to try to take on the Rock and Boom. There is just way too much liability risk for one organization to take that on, and there's also way too much volunteerism that has to come. That's why the collaborative event of 7 different groups coming together to put on the event works very nice. The city signing the contracts, approving the contracts is what kind of covers the committee for liability purposes. That's why I don't know who you're gonna find to do it if the committee won't, or if the city doesn't want to continue to.
I don't feel we need to find anybody else. I think we should continue it the way it has been for the last 50
Is that a
years.
motion?
Wait, we're not even answering the item. No,
If we're looking at the item, the long and short of.
where's the money supposed to go, Mike? Where do you want the money to go?
I
Where do you want to
I
retain the
prefer
money
the money to stay right where it is because
with the city?
with the city,
Okay.
for Rock and Boom, Audubon Days is completely separate. I know that they're working through their stuff, but for Rock and Boom, that is all I can speak on. I would prefer the committee would prefer the money to stay with the city to continue the tradition of the fireworks and bands and whatnot.
So as far as the agenda item itself is concerned, we can pretty much just, we can drop it. We've discussed it. We don't need to do anything with it. The Rotary, as Mike said, one organization is not gonna take it on. So moving forward, basically, it would just stay the way that it is.
And I mean, if I can explain how the contracts and everything, typically there's one fireworks contract that comes in about January. There is probably about a total of 7, 8, 9 small little contracts that come in for the band, the sound and lights, that sort of stuff. They come in, I have almost all of those contracts and W-9s. And I will give them to you guys probably before May to approve at the finance committee. And I understand that it goes through finance committee, it gets sent to council, and then the checks get cut. If there's anything, audit issues, anything that needs to be cleaned up or worked out, I would be happy to work with you on that.
If it's of any assistance, everything we've seen is Rock and Boom was down to a fine art out of the 2 events, and it would not put a lot of extra manpower on City Hall to continue to do what we've been doing.
So I would like to make a motion, keep it the way it has been for all these years with the city.
The council has two options: handle it the way Joe Reese has stated, or handle it the way you stated. I think it's the same.
I'm not opposed to keeping it the same way. I'm just always curious, what options are we missing?
Sure.
You know,
I mean, I think,
I'll trust me, I would be happy to entertain any option because part of me wants you guys to say no so that I can stop doing it and somebody else can. And that's on the record, so.
I think Annie represented it accurately. I mean, so, Alderperson Kim Olson has made the motion to keep Rock and Boom finances managed through the city.
so if I just, I don't wanna step on anybody's toes here. We really don't need a motion. We can just drop it, because if we drop it, it
Agreed.
stays the same way.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was trying to
Move on to the
get
next
that.
agenda item if everybody's okay with that.
Cam, are you good with that?
I'm okay with that.
All right. Thanks for coming in, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Do we have anybody here? We don't, doesn't look like. Discuss with possible action the recommendation to approve Audubon Days funds to be handed over to be managed by the Audubon Days nonprofit group, contingent upon attorney approval and the drawing up of any contract needed to make said transition possible. Is anybody on the council well versed in it?
Right?
Kristen, she has, as I understand it, Kristen has created an LLC, has agreed to create a committee or board and manage the profits entirely themselves.
It's actually gonna be a nonprofit.
Nonprofit or
Oh, I thought you said LLC.
a nonprofit.
There's a non-stock corporation that's set up, Naval Audubon Days Inc. that was just formed, and Kristen Shaver is registered agent, so I have to assume that's what she's using. I didn't watch the whole video. I don't know if she was at that finance committee meeting, but there's nobody here.
She was at that meeting.
I think
And
that this was all
2 weeks ago?
participle of the discussion with her, that this is the next step. They're ready to do this. That's why we put it on here. And then I believe there was that wild assumption that the Rotary wanted Rock and Boom, and that was incorrect, but I think this is correct. This came before the Rock and Boom portion of it. So I'm okay making a motion to approve this recommendation to hand over the funds to the nonprofit for Audubon Days.
and I will second it.
So Alderman Reese made the motion, Kim Olson seconds. Any further discussion?
I have a couple.
Okay,
Since this is contingent upon city attorney review and drawing up the contract, I'd like to know what agreements the council would like for this. Is it gonna be an agreement governing the use of these funds that are currently being held by the city, which would be transferred to this non-stock corporation that says what they can and can't do with them? Is it going to say what's gonna happen to the funds 10, 15, 20 years from now if this non-stock corporation dissolves? Do they need to go back to the city? I don't know if there are provisions in the bylaws that are being drawn up for this. Sometimes
I believe there have to be provisions in there stating what happens to the fund if the entity dissolves, if it's a nonprofit, because they have to go back to another nonprofit or sometimes the government entity. So I probably want to talk to Kristen Schaefer or the attorney she hired, if she hired an attorney to do this, to get some information before I just start drawing up agreements. But I would like to hear from the council members on what they'd like to see before we just approve this recommendation.
I agree, you should probably talk to her and her lawyer.
Yeah, I'm sorry I haven't, but I want to hear from the council first.
Yeah, I think I understand what Nolan's saying, and I think it's actually part of the comment that Rob made is to basically not let those funds disappear down the road should the nonprofit be dissolved, which I think is a good idea.
I agree. There should be something where if it does dissolve, it comes back to us.
Plus the residue that they earn is to be the basis of the next year's program in case there's a rainy year, they have some funds to work with, so forth, that's the whole idea. I'm not real crazy about this, but, so this is far away from my interest, as you people know, I don't like partying and drinking here.
So it's part of the question here, if we hold money back, is that it?
No, you gotta turn the money over to
I think we have to turn the money over, but there has to be a contractual obligation that should that entity be dissolved, the remaining funds come back to the city to continue this event in a different fashion.
I think a related question would be, everybody has the expectation that they're going to use the funds to put on Audubon days every year, but what if for some reason they stop doing it, or for whatever reason they want to use the funds for something else that might technically be within the scope of their, nonprofit exemption that they get, but it wouldn't be Audubon days. I mean, does the city want to put conditions on that? It's up to the council.
I think.
How many dollars are we talking about here?
The Audubon Day?
What are the dollar amounts we're talking about handing over?
I asked for it and now I can't remember what the amount is.
Was it like 20,
$28.
yeah, something like that, 23 or 28?
Thank you.
There was also, Nolan, some discussion about whether she used city tax number or not, or whether she was gonna get a tax number, that's why she tried to become a 501c3. Because she wound up paying tax on a lot of things, and we were, when it was supposed to be exempt, some of that should be covered in the contract too, that
She did obtain it.
Yeah.
So to me, it makes sense to review what their charter is, to understand what they're planning to be able to spend their money on. I think that might clear up a lot of things for us. I also think it makes a lot of sense that if they dissolve for some reason, whatever funds they have left over would come back to the city. That's my 2 cents worth for tonight.
So perhaps the council could refer it back to committee, but give the city attorney authorization to make contact with Kristen and her attorney and see if they can kind of hash out some terms prior to that committee.
Can we actually just table it for the next one and then do that instead of having to go?
I think you could.
back?
Yeah.
I will rescind my motion. I will make a motion to table this so that we have time to figure that out, but I think we have at least somewhat of an idea of the direction.
Sounds good.
I'll second the motion.
Alderman, okay, so the motion is Alderman Reese. Do you have the motion? Okay.
Yeah, the motion to rescind table to the next council meeting, second by Alderperson Abbott.
Yeah, thank you. All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Parks and Rec Tag Center Commission, no report, date and time, next meeting will be Wednesday, May 3rd, 6 p.m. Planning Commission. Alderman's update on the Planning Commission meeting.
Oh, that was me. We met 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock today. Talked about certified survey map agreement with a young man up on the hill. His name was, what was his name?
Thomas Leckowitz.
Thomas Leckowitz, yes. And we approved that, subject to a little bit of work with, Nick, our engineer, on following up on drainage agreements and so forth. We had a presentation by developer, Corey and Tom, about treatment for property next to a nursing home on Clark Street, and we saw his ideas, we gave them some input. They gave us some plan, some ideas for what he wanted to do up on Leona Court, and maybe the adjoining property, if he gets an agreement with that landowner. Let's see, otherwise, I don't know what else we did.
I think that pretty much sums it up well, Mr. Alderman Smith. Alderman Bob Smith. Next planning commission will be Monday, May 5 PM. Next item, communication committee. This month's meeting was, they did not have a quorum, so there's no report. Date time of the next
Do you want
meeting,
me to discuss what happened back in February?
did we discuss? it?
I know you weren't there, but
Yeah, I was there, so
I'd be happy to run it down if you like.
otherwise it's on YouTube as well.
It is.
Is it-
Okay,
you good with it?
I'm okay with that.
All right, date and time of the next communication meeting will be Monday, April 17th, 4 PM.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
Alderman Reese, motion, Kim Olson, second. All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Aye.
All right, have a great evening, everyone.
Good night, you guys.